Hey everybody, welcome to the Wings on Katella podcast. I knew that I was actually going to screw that up if I thought about it too hard, but brand new podcast presented to you by the Sporting Tribune, www.thesportingtribune.com. I am Taylor Blake Ward, managing editor for the Sporting Tribune. With me, three of our elite staff members: Zach Cavanagh, Ducks reporter for the Sporting Tribune; Jack Janes and Thomas Murray, both staff reporters for the Sporting Tribune. Boys, how you doing today?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm lovely, Jack. Thank you, Zach.
Giving us
Thomas?
the title of elite is putting some pressure, but you know.
I said elites of staff. That's a fairly low bar. That's actually awful to say. We have amazing staff. That's awful. I'm a bad person.
We work really hard, Taylor. How dare you?
This episode 1, off the rails. Let's see. It's
Going
58
smooth.
seconds in. I didn't even make it to the 1 minute mark before I botched this whole thing. But hey, Thomas, two things. Hello, first of all. Secondly, can you burn that god awful hat? What is up with you? What is that?
That's a champion hat right there. Go Birds.
Did they win
baby.
it? Did they win something recently?
Ask Mike Trout about it.
There we go. That is a good segue into what this is all about. Obviously, here with the Sporting Tribune, these are members of our staff that cover the Angels, cover the Anaheim Ducks. This is going to be Orange County centric, Orange County sports centric. We're going to be talking Anaheim Ducks. We're going to be talking Los Angeles Angels, located in Anaheim, Orange County. And that is why we are called the Wings on Katella podcast. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. We'll find ways to make, go through the whole subscribe and follow and all that junk. But first off, we've got some news. Jack, you are in Tempe, Arizona. I know you're not in Tempe as of this moment. You're in downtown region. But obviously some huge Angels news today. Can you take us through the big breaking story? Obviously there was a lot of Angels news, but the big breaking story, Jack.
Yeah, the big story, I mean, it's kind of a reoccurring theme. Anthony Rendon's hurt again. This time before the season even started, before he even reported to camp. He's been rehabbing, or this is what Perry Manassian told us reporters at the media scrum today. He'd been rehabbing all off season, and then the last couple of weeks he's had trouble with it. They went to some doctors, looked it over, and they decided that a hip surgery was necessary. So Manassian said it's the other hip. It's the left hip this time and not the right hip that he did back in August of 2021. As for a timetable, they don't know yet. They're going to take it throughout the process, but Manassian did say it's going to be a lengthy rehab. So it's not out of the question to say he might not play this year, but, time will tell.
And obviously, I mean, like you said, again, Anthony's hurt again. And it's not something you want to see. It's not something that Anthony Rendon wants to be hurt. Being injured is not fun. That is not a fun thing to deal with. But like we said, talking about Anthony Rendon here, 205 games in the last 4 seasons. That does not include the COVID season where he played the bulk and played very well. But since 2021, 205 games, 1.5 wins above a replacement, and 86 OPS plus. So we were talking about this yesterday. For those that are kind of unaware, we did record an episode yesterday and then reset with all the news that occurred today. But we were talking about how Anthony has no use of his lower half. He can't throw properly. He can't hit with authority. Thomas, when you heard this news, what went through your mind when it came to Anthony Rendon?
Just here we go again, kind of deal. I think the one thing that I've thought of, though, is coming into the season is just based off the injury history, the fact that he's never played over 60 games with the Angels. It's just really now, you can't really rely. At this point, I just think at his age.
Did we lose Thomas? Did we lose me?
No.
No.
I think it's just
There he is.
There we go.
There he is.
I think it was me because my internet went out earlier during Jack's
No
segment.
no issue. Well,
I'll
we
edit
got the
that
bulk
if I
of
need
it.
to.
We had the bulk of
Yeah,
it. And go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, just what I was saying. Just it's just been unreliable with him the whole time he's been an Angel, and I think at this point, you're just kind of writing out that contract and waiting for it to expire following next season. Yeah, 2 years from now. So
I tend to
it's
agree.
what
I
it
mean,
is.
at some point, you have to at least contemplate opening up a roster spot. It's going to be expensive. Technically, you can put him on the 60-day, complete the roster spot, but, like you said, Thomas, we don't know when he's coming back. This is hip surgery. This is a tough thing to recover from. Zach, I know, going into this, Jack and Thomas have been covering the Angels here for us, and Zach, you've been covering the Ducks, but you said you have some opinions on this. What are you thinking with this Anthony Rendon news?
So my thing with Anthony Rendon, it kind of was summed up by Perry at the end of last year, right? He had a quote, something about it's been a struggle to get Anthony on the field, and then when he has played, he hasn't played well. It was kind of the first time that he admitted that Anthony Rendon wasn't a solid player for the Angels at any point. And I mean, you kind of laid out the numbers, and this is now his completed his 5th year under contract with the Angels. I don't know if you clarified his playing, but under contract. And he's played roughly 36% of the games over that span, 257 out of 708. I think it was, there's the Twitter account Beyond the Halo that I'm sure you guys have seen. Since 2021, he has 13 home runs. He also has 13 stints on the injured list. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about the Anthony Rendon experience of his time with the Angels. He's unreliable when he's playing, and he's like, the only cool thing he's done is hit that one left-handed home run that one time when he switched spots, just for fun. I can't say that he's been a productive member of the Angels organization in his time, and it's up there with maybe the worst signing in the Artie era. It's either him or Josh Hamilton, and I think just based on the injury history, it has to be Anthony Rendon.
And Josh Hamilton played in the playoffs. I mean, I know it wasn't very good in the playoffs, but he was in the playoffs with the Angels. Jack, I see you chomping at the bit on this. You that is a really interesting note. 13 home runs, 13 injury or IL stints. Jack, you mentioned something to me yesterday, and you asked me a question. You said, when was the last time Anthony Rendon hit a home run? My response was his left-handed home run. But Jack, you've got some notes on this. Take us through it a little bit.
Yeah, Zach, you mentioned the home runs. The last home run he's hit is July 1st, 2023. So most likely, unless he, for some reason, plows through this rehab, which I highly doubt is happening, I think he's going to go 2 full calendar years without hitting a home run, which is just insane. And you also mentioned cool things he's done as an Angel. I think him slapping Jesse Winker in the Seattle Brawl was pretty cool, but that's besides the point. With the cast on his hand, too.
That is true.
Right, yeah.
Going through this mindset, and, I think back to C.J. Wilson, and C.J. Wilson actually he gets a lot of heat for that contract. It's the biggest contract I think the Angels ever gave a pitcher, and he actually performed way up to par with it. I don't know why people are so pissy and nitpicky about that crap.
I'm a C.J. Wilson fan. Yeah,
he performed well under his contract. But what I'm getting at with it is I saw the last pitch C.J. Wilson threw in his career, and it was in San Bernardino. I have it on my phone. I still have it recorded. The last pitch he ever threw was in San Bernardino. We've dealt with Anthony for the last couple of years. I guess, Jack, I know you're new. Zach, I know you haven't been out there. Thomas, I know last year. I've covered Anthony for a while. I do not want Anthony's last swing as a baseball player to come in San Bernardino or Arizona or on July 1st. I don't want his last home run to be July 1st, 2023. There is a personal feeling to this because you're attached to it. We are journalists, so we don't have strong opinions one way or another on the teams that we cover. Speaking for myself, I want to see the Angels do well because it's easier to cover. It's better to cover a team that's doing well. But realistically, there is a small personal part of me that you want to see these guys do well with their life as well. When it comes to Anthony, there seems to be a vendetta from the fan base that he's doing this on purpose or anything like that. I just want to come clean with it and say, I feel bad for Anthony. I really do. I feel bad for the Angels, obviously. They're paying all this money but I feel really bad for Anthony.
Doesn't a lot of that come from, he had the quote about baseball not being a priority for him? Like, I think, and that's something that the fans sort of jump, and I get it, because for him, it's like, oh, he listed off like, it's his family and that stuff. Like, all right, understood. But the
Yeah.
fans are going to take that and say, well, this guy, here he is again, not playing another season. He doesn't want to play the game anyway. So that's what the fan perspective would be, right?
You've got the opposite. Go ahead, Jack.
Well, and if I remember correctly, going all the way back to his introduction press conference in 2019 when he signed, he said that he came here because it was more of a family environment and it was good for his family, good fit for all of his family. So he kind of made it clear right away that his family's most important, and as it should be. Going back to what you said, Taylor, like, yeah, I feel bad too because, you know, I when I played, I hated getting hurt and I hated missing, time playing baseball. I can't imagine what it's like when you have a 162 game season and you're only playing 50 games out of it, no matter if you really like it or not, or really like playing or not. It takes a mental toll on you, and especially, you signed the $245 million contract. You have a lot of expectations. The fans expect a lot out of you, and to not have control over any of that, I'm sure it takes a heavy toll on a guy's mental state. So I'm the same way. I feel bad for him, and I hope he's doing well with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the whole thing, is the mental state of this. And what is baseball? What is Major League Baseball in reality, or any
It's a
professional
stupid
sport?
game.
Well, no, it's an entertainment industry. It's entertainment, and if you're a good entertainer, you get paid to be a good entertainer. I don't know what kind of money Brad Pitt's bringing in, but I'm sure as hell entertained when he talks and acts and everything. But that's what baseball is. It's an entertainment industry, and his entertainment value obviously has diminished, but he got paid to be an entertainer. He got paid because his job is baseball, and if that's his life is family, so I'm okay with that. That's where I would separate it. Thomas, any more thoughts before we stop talking about Anthony Rendon here?
Yeah, no, I do want to talk about the Anthony Rendon and his love for baseball. I was around the team for a little bit last year. It started to come around in July. The one thing I will say though is, like, when I did see Rendon, I would see him like talking with the teammates. I remember seeing Zach Neto say that Anthony Rendon's been a really good mentor to him and just kind of helping him develop as a player, learning how to be a big leaguer. And I, even when he was on the injured list, I'd seen him a couple times, doing some infield drills, doing some bunting drills, just actually working to get back on the field. I get it why people are upset. I'm like, yeah, you invest all this money and hey, it's just not worked out. But I wouldn't say that the guy hasn't tried or that he doesn't care. I think he genuinely does. It's just hasn't worked out.
I agree. I mean, this
Yeah.
is World Series champion. Zach, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think a lot of the animosity too is just sort of a buildup over time, whether it's the team not being competitive, whether it's his injuries, Mike Trout's injuries, even Shohei Ohtani when he was with the Angels had the Tommy John. It's just a buildup, and when you have a guy that is making as much money as he is, he's going to get the focal point. Because Mike Trout, I don't think you're going to get Angel fans to turn on Mike Trout at any point. And Shohei is, a unicorn. You're not going to get people to turn on him. Although, I guess some people did, but he's a singular force in the world of baseball. Anthony Rendon comes out there, gets paid a lot of money, injured, underperforms, has that lackadaisical attitude on the outside. And that's where and it's just one after another after another. I don't think this is all on Anthony Rendon's shoulders, but it is certainly just an embodiment of what the last decade of the Arte Moreno Angels have been, and that's where this kind of falls down on. So, yeah, you hope that this guy is able to rehab properly, live out a productive life, and maybe even get back into the game of baseball and be a productive player. But in terms of just the Angels' focus on it, it's just the straw on the camel's back sort of thing in terms of where this all leads to.
I agree with that. Transitioning, staying on Anthony Rendon to some degree, Jack, there's two things Perry could not talk about today. We're going to start with one that cost about $5 million for the next year. Essentially, Yoán Moncada. Is this a replacement for Rendon, and was it anticipated before? Because I know that nationally, there was a national report that it was Yoán Moncada's job to lose after he signed. I thought it was his job to lose. Yeah, that almost seemed night and day. We talked about Anthony at the start of the year, or start of the offseason. he has to earn his job, and obviously he's not going to at this point. But Yoán Moncada, switch hitter, 29 years old. For the majority of his career, around a league average bat, kind of inconsistent defensively and offensively, but it comes in waves. Thomas, let's start with you. Yoán Moncada, what are your thoughts on this signing and how it's going to impact the Angels infield here?
Yeah, when I saw the signing originally, and we kind of what we talked about yesterday, I said I liked the move. I mean, like we said, they got him for like reliever money, about $5 million, right? And you said it, you're getting an average bat. You're getting a guy though that can play in games. Finds ways to stay on the field, and as long as you're just getting consistency out there in third base, I mean, what do you have to lose with this? One of the things with Moncada is just, the numbers haven't been like too great the last 2 years. Dealt with the injury last year, and it was just like kind of a freak thing. But I mean, it's just a guy that probably needed a change of scenery too, where Chicago was just a whole mess in itself. And I don't know though. I think just coming to the Angels, it'll be good for him. It'll be a good change of scenery. It'll be a nice place for him just because of the locker room that they have, the culture, and everything that Ron Washington's just been building in the locker room.
Completely fair, and I'm pulling up as we speak if my computer will let me. Essentially, third base has just been a joke for the Angels. Jack, as I'm pulling this up, and if it's going to let me do this or not, I'm not so sure if it's going to let me. When it comes to Yoán Moncada, what was there anything that could even be spoken about today when it came to everything, or was there just nothing that could be said about this deal?
There really was nothing that could be said yet because they're waiting to officially announce it. And same goes for, which I'm sure we'll hit on later, Kenley Jansen. He couldn't speak on any of them just because, the deal's not official yet, so he can't speak. Although he slipped up and accidentally said that Moncada will be third base. But, yeah, I mean, Moncada in his 8 years in Chicago, not counting the COVID year, he's only crossed the 130 game threshold 3 times. So, like you said, historically, he has been a league average bat, which would be a massive upgrade for Angels third base, but can he stay on the field, But they've kind of stocked up on infielders around the diamond where they got, Tim Anderson on a non-roster invite. They have Moncada. They have Rengifo. Hold on, let me pull up the roster. There's someone I'm missing, I know. They have J.D. Davis on a non-roster invite, and Kevin Newman they brought in. So they have options in case Moncada and obviously now Rendon hurt. But Christian Moore's another guy to look forward to fill in. We'll see how he does this spring, but yeah.
Yeah, and we were talking about it yesterday with Christian Moore. I don't think we're going to talk about it today. I think Christian Moore is something we're going to say, but Christian Moore is fighting for this job. Just did an article for a different affiliate, not the Sporting Tribune, but did an article for another affiliate, and just the dog in this kid. I know that's such a cliche and stupid term, but this kid wants it, man. And he's so stinking confident. I don't think he can play third base. Being real blunt, real direct, I don't think he can play third base. But
I met him play second, and Gifo moved to third.
Right. And
yeah,
something I wanted to mention before we go to Zach on this. Since 2020, and I'm going to switch this over to 2021 just to get rid of that COVID year. Since 2021, Angels third base production. Luis Rengifo, 3.9 WAR. Anthony Rendon, 1.3 WAR. Third place, Gio Urshela, over 62 games, a half a win. 0.5. After that is Jack Mayfield at 0.3. Ehire Adrianza, who did retire this year, 0.1. And then after that, it's a bunch of zeros and negatives all the way down to 20. So realistically, Yoán Moncada just has to be on the field at this point. I mean, there is no value for the Angels third base over the last few years, unless you're talking about Luis Rengifo, which of course he could be at third base, but you're going to play him everywhere. We're going to talk about shortstop in a minute, but Zach, your thoughts on Yoán Moncada and the Angels third base situation?
I mean, we're talking about the Angels third base production in the last few years. You want to even go back all the way to Troy Gloss? Like, what has that position been for the last 20 years for that
1 minute.
team?
Hold the phone 1 minute, mister.
What?
The best looking, nicest, greatest human being to ever live played third base for the Angels back in 2014. His name was David Freese. Now you can move on and say what you were going to say. Sorry about that.
You know who has more WAR as an Angel than Anthony Rendon?
Whom?
Alberto Callaspo.
That is true.
My
I liked
gosh.
Alberto Callaspo returned from the injured list my first time covering the Angels. It was May of 2013 covering the Angels.
I think I referred to him as Alberto Collapso at the time because.
And you know what? There was someone that outperformed
wasn't
Troy
a fan.
Glass. Someone that outperformed Troy Glass, buddy. Looking at it right now.
Brandon Wood, Dallas McPherson. Who do we got?
Well, valid point. Sean Figgins, but go on
Oh,
ahead.
okay.
Zach.
Yeah. I mean, Figgy is. I don't think of him as a third baseman. I think of him just as everywhere.
Because he's not.
I don't even know if this is going to show up on video, but can you? Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. Sean Figgins, Troy Glass, Meister Turris, Alberto Callaspo, David Freese, and then I think it's Anthony Rendon if I'm reading this backwards.
Oh God.
Yeah,
You're just a real murderer's row. The 27 Yankees that you're describing there.
Put some respect on David Freese, man.
Yes, a World Series MVP for Texas, or no, St. Louis. Anyway, yeah, I think it's a matter of like, do you want to go from a injury-prone, unproductive third baseman to another injury-prone, unproductive third baseman? Of course not. You want the guy to be on the field, and as Jack said, a league average bat is all you need for the Angels. I mean, you can't go any lower than rock bottom, right? My only concern would be, I don't know if you want to raid the Chicago White Sox as much as they seem to be between him and Tim Anderson, although I know Tim Anderson, former All-Star, an actual good player. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of anything is a good change right now in terms of the mix that they have. You need production. You need guys on base. You need guys to get driven in. You need guys to play. And, low risk, high reward. Get him on the field. Have Ron Washington work his magic that he can do with some infielders and see where you can go. But it's one of those things where I think anything is a step up as long as he can be on the field every day and be consistent. You don't need him hitting 320. You need him hitting, a nice 270, playing every day, and you just sort of ride it out from there and see where the lineup takes you.
And something I think I brought up yesterday, they need a left-handed bat dramatically. And I know he's a switch hitter, but they need a left-handed bat. Zach, you mentioned two things. You mentioned what did you call Tim Anderson?
A former All-Star.
And do you know what David Freese's favorite song of all time is?
Is it Smash Mouth's All-Star? Oh boy. Oh no.
Here comes the copyright.
No, I only played like 2 seconds. We're still
There you
good.
go.
Yeah, I can't get over it, man. David Freese is the greatest human being that has lived in this last century.
I'll believe you, but
On that note, we've got
not
a
a
few
strong
things.
position historically is the point.
No, it's not. We do want to talk some Anaheim Ducks. And Zach, that's why I have you with Thomas here. We're going to talk about Zach Neto, Kenley, Jansen. But first, Four Nations. Zach, just a brief on what's going on with the Anaheim Ducks right now. And Thomas, actually, I want to start with Thomas. We talked about it yesterday. And I want to see if Zach agrees. See, this is where we start doing a little dispute in between. Get a few extra clicks over the argument. So, Thomas, tell me what you said about the Ducks. Zach, I'm going to follow up with you.
Yeah, no, I said the Ducks have been playing a lot better lately. It's kind of just been a disaster year, but I mean, hey, they got to 500 before the break, and I think that's a big win that you can take from that. Winners of their last 6-7 games.
6 of 7. Yep.
Yeah, I've only lost one of those, right? I mean, regardless of how things have been this year, I mean, they're playing good as of late, and you got to give credit to them. I know it's something that Derek, who's in there with us at the press box all the time, and he's talked to Trevor Zegers about it. If he's like the glue for the lineup, and he was saying that he doesn't think so, but that he won't admit it. But I mean, they've been playing better since his return.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that they're playing better right now, and it's I think that the results are important in the long run of things too. I think getting to 500 before the break is a huge morale boost. because how they did it. Did they kind of collapse at the end of that Kings game and let it go into a shootout and barely scrape it out? All of those things are true, but they still got the win. They still get to NHL 500, and you can take the 2 weeks. Half the team's in Cabo right now. If you watch their Instagrams, Lucas Dostal enjoying helicopter rides in Hawaii. Just come back refreshed. I think the important thing is to try to take this momentum, because I think there is something building there. The main downfall of this team all season has been the defensive play, and they've been bailed out by the goaltending. What's happened in the last 7 games or so is the defensive play is actually improving. That's improving is going from rock bottom 32nd in the league to about 23rd right now. But that is enough to alleviate some of the pressure on the goaltenders, spend some more time in the offensive zone, and get that all needed 3 goals. They still haven't lost in regulation when they've scored 3 or more this season. Does it don't boil back to Trevor Zegras? I think he helps in confidence alone. Just confidence, swagger, ease of play. And he's been supposed to be playing with Leo Carlson, and that's the guy that they've been trying to jumpstart all season. And I think it helps. I think they're flowing better. They're still not producing as much as you want, but I think there is something to all of that. That there's confidence brewing. They're playing better. The issues are sort of not being fixed, but you can see the bits of improvement. Even if it's not for a full game, you see the bits that they can say, okay, this is what we did right. This is the section that you can try to replicate, next game, next week, the week after, and see where this actually goes. I don't think they're going to make a playoff run, like a charge towards a playoff spot. They're still 9 points out. But, the fact that they can at least dream about it is kind of the whole point of what they were trying to get to this season. Not necessarily getting all the way there, but getting to a point where you can say, we can still do this. Maybe they won't get there, but if they're eliminated with 5 games to go, it's better than being eliminated with 20 games to go.
Stole my big thunder there. I literally was going to ask if it was even a stupid question. Could the Ducks make the playoffs in the West?
Could they? Maybe. It's all about There's the thing is they're with the wins, they're starting to jump over some of the other teams that are ahead of them. So now all of a sudden, instead of like 5 teams ahead of them, it's only 3. I still don't think they can do that, but if the goaltending stays hot, and all of a sudden you score goals for a week and you win 4 in a row, and Vancouver blows a tire like they could do, if Calgary finally starts playing back to the actual expectations of what their roster should be, maybe you catch up. But I still don't think they have enough gas to get all the way there. There's just not enough offense to be found. Even if the defense improves, even if the goaltending is still rock solid, they just can't score enough.
Zach is poking the bear to every degree. He knows the only reason I haven't been down to Anaheim is because hockey is one of the few sports that I get to actually be a fan, and I don't have to stay neutral with things. And yes, the Vancouver Canucks are spiraling downward, sadly. Jack, we'll get you on to talk ASU hockey at some point as well. Jack's
red hot Sun
hockey
Devils
than the 3 of us combined, and you guys have not missed a game. So
I follow Jack's coverage because I'm former Sun Devil. That team's hot right now. They just split with Denver. They're on top of the conference.
I want to know. I've been trying to look it up. I want to know how many teams have beaten Denver 3 times in the same season, because they swept them in Denver back in November. They split with them with an overtime win and an overtime loss this past weekend. Now they head to Duluth. They got 3 weeks left. They're special. As soon as they got healthy, they took off, because they're missing 4 of their top 6 to start the season.
That's just what the NCAA tournament needs, is the Sun Devils. That's a special thing.
I'd cheer for them. I'm very, very partial to my college hockey team, but we'll get into that another time, because I've got a bunch of Sun Devils and an Eagles fan over here. So, going back to Angels. Talking Angels, we did talk about Yoán Moncada. Angels did make another signing, a 1-year, $10 million deal. Jack, again, Perry could not discuss this. You had the Quick Hits article. Tell us a little bit about Kenley Jansen, Was there anything going on in camp today that anyone was talking about Kenley Jansen? And then we'll get into the discussion that we were into yesterday about Kenley himself.
As for today, I mean, he wasn't at the facility. Um, Perry, again, couldn't say anything about what was going on. So we don't know if the holdup is physicals or paperwork or anything like that. But he made it sound like it's going to get done in the next day or two. Just stand by for the official announcing. But as for, Kenley himself, I mean, they made it seem like he's going to be the guy. He's going to be the closer. Someone asked him if Sam Blum had asked him, hypothetically, if a guy with 450 career saves just happened to join the roster, would he be named the closer? Or not like that, but he said like
It's a good hypothetical.
Is there a good chance that you guys already have your closer in mind? And he goes, yeah, we do. We have a closer in mind. So safe to assume it's going to be Kenley Jansen. But I think this will be really good for both Jansen and for Ben Joyce. Jansen's in a lower stress environment where he can collect saves, hopefully, if the Angels are, playing better. And it also gives Joyce a mentor, someone who he can look up to, learn, how to be a major leaguer day in and day out, and hopefully direct him to the right direction to hopefully be one of the better closers in the game.
And this is something we talked about yesterday, and Thomas, I'm going to go to you with this. Kenley Jansen potentially on a Hall of Fame. He's got a shot at the Hall. I'm not going to say he's a Hall of Famer because I don't think that's fair for any closer. And, Billy Wagner and Trevor Hoffman and Mariano Rivera make great examples because Kenley is, 21 saves away from Lee Smith for third all time. And he's like 31 saves from Lee Smith and 53 saves away from 500. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about how, maybe you're splitting the closer by committee. And Thomas, that's what you and I were thinking about yesterday. I agreed with you on that. But handing the reins over to Kenley Jansen for the ninth inning, having your closer, and a guy that's on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Man, I'm so glad that was the first time I screwed up all day because I'm perfect. Thomas, what are your thoughts here? Kenley Jansen, the closer of the Angels, chasing some historic markers.
Yeah. Do I think he can get the 54 saves for the 500? Honestly, probably not, and that's just more of I don't know if he's going to be able to get those opportunities.
Are the Angels going to win 54 games? They will, but
yes.
I like what you're saying. They're not.
If they win 54 games, 3-1,
realistically,
then they can do
it.
it.
It was 3-2 games, 3-2, 54 games. I agree though. The opportunity's not going to be there. Sorry for cutting you off.
Will he have the 54 opportunities with the Angels? Likely not, because it is a 1-year deal. Also, even if they have, if he gets those 54th opportunities, is that 54th going to be in Anaheim, or is he going to get potentially traded at the deadline due to however the team's performing this year? So that's another question. I like it. I think closer by committee would be, be great. But I get it. Have Jansen go ahead and take over the reins, and the days he's not available, I think for sure Ben Joyce will be that guy that comes up and pitches in the ninth inning. And I think it's only, just going to be beneficial for Ben Joyce at the end of the day.
And you mentioning the 53, 54 saves he needed. The 31 saves is going to be my focus, and it's to Lee Smith. Lee Smith set the bar. I was there the night that Trevor Hoffman surpassed Lee Smith in saves. Something about Lee Smith, and actually it was brought up by Angels Win, which is Jeff Stoddard, Chuck Richter. I don't know which one of them would have brought it up on social media, but they mentioned Lee Smith signed with the Angels 1995, 37 years old, same age as Kenley Jansen. And Lee Smith was brought in for one reason, and it was to train a closer. It was to help assist with an incoming closer. That guy's name was Troy Percival. Troy Percival had himself a pretty nice career, especially for a guy that was a catcher. Actually, Kenley was a catcher too. We were talking about that yesterday. Zach, I'm going to bore you with my story because I bored these guys yesterday. Back in 2009, young Taylor Blake Ward was surveying San Bernardino, California, and he ran across a catcher for the Inland Empire 66ers. Guess what that kid's name was? Kenley Jansen. So I got to see Kenley Jansen catch. I know. I went real dramatic for a really bland story. Also got to see that same year Kenley Jansen close out a game in the Cal League playoffs. So fun stuff. Zach,
the catcher Taylor Ward,
the former catcher Taylor. We're both former catchers. Yeah. He had a little bit more success than I did. But hey, I still have some knees. Some. What was that line from Batman? He says, "I've seen worse cartilage in knees because I've seen cartilage in knees." So, Zach, thoughts on signing 37-year-old Kenley Jansen?
I think it's kind of similar to what we've said here. Just that if you want a steady veteran hand to maybe help Ben Joyce, as live as that arm could be, he's a guy that you can look after. And then it's just a matter of like, I don't know, like, is it going to matter? Like, not to continually be a little negative on it, but it's like the Angels aren't going to all of a sudden be an 80-win team overnight, right? Like, it's a good insurance policy to have. It's a nice trade chip if he performs well enough to be wanted by a team that needs some bullpen help. And the Angels, of course, need some bullpen help. They always have. I think it's a fine signing. Chasing records and all that, you're not coming to the Angels if you're going to be chasing records and things like that. I think it's just he wants to get an opportunity, and maybe that opportunity is for himself to help some younger generations. And I think it works both ways for both the player and the team, where the Angels would like someone to solidify the bullpen, coach up some of the young guys, and then you trade him when you need to, to sort of connect the two things. Not dissimilar to like Brian Dumoulin with the Anaheim Ducks on defense, where he's a veteran, he comes into a young group, you teach them, they solidify the back end, they learn all the lessons, and then when deadline time comes, you flip them for a draft pick. And everybody's worked out because he gets to go play for a contender. You've helped out your young guys, and you've gotten an asset in the process. If that's something that they can do with Kenley Jansen and the Angels, I think that's a win-win for everybody. I don't think it's not a bad dart to throw at the board at this point.
Absolutely fair enough. I tend to agree. The Angels aren't going to win 20 extra games out of nowhere. They're not. If they make 500, it's a heck of a year for them. Heck of a year. It's going to take a healthy Mike Trout. It's going to take a healthy everybody. It's just a random short note I pulled up. Of the 31 members of the 300 Save Club, 6 have pitched for the Angels. Of the 8 members of the 400 Saves Club, 3 have pitched for the Angels. K-Rod, Kenley Jansen, incoming, if the report is accurate, which it is, and Lee Smith. So just an interesting little tidbit on that.
Just because you brought up K-Rod, Taylor, I have a question for you, because I saw someone compare the numbers when Billy Wagner gets put into the Hall of Fame, right? That the K-Rod numbers are pretty similar overall to Billy Wagner. I don't know if K-Rod's famous enough for the Hall of Fame, but if the numbers are all the same.
They are comparable. There, without going into detail, there is some publicly known off-field issues when it comes to Francisco Rodriguez that I believe character has some things to do with the Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame voting, and he does have recently some things that I believe would take some voters away, and that's my opinion on it. Just my 2 cents. But yes, no.
I just saw the numbers and saw how remarkably similar they were, and I was kind of struck by that.
Incredibly. So
besides saves, it's the same thing with Trevor Hoffman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has a higher K rate. He was the ERA better too. Yeah, he has a lower ERA than Trevor Hoffman. So.
No, definitely one of the better closers of all time. And when you're going into the Hall of Fame, we can make this argument any day and chat about it for hours. But if you're going in the Hall of Fame, you have to be the best at what you did. That's why I kind of believe that Chase Utley should probably be near the Hall of Fame, because he's one of the best second basemen. Now, if you're talking about infielders, if you're talking about hitters, if you're talking about whatever, then it changes. But as for second baseman, Bobby Grich, Chase Utley, probably both deserving. I mean, as silly as it may sound, go take a look at Russell Martin and Brian McCann, career-wise, where they match up against other catchers. I want to say that Russell Martin is actually a top 10 catcher of all time analytically. And I think that Brian McCann is I think they're both top 15 catchers all time. And I think Brian McCann and Russell Martin both got dumped from the ballot, first ballot in, right? I know McCann, or I know McCann did. I don't know if Russell Martin, but either way, you know, Hall
if
of Fame is
Canada
a
wasn't
tricky
good,
thing.
if Canada wasn't going to be furious about losing the Four Nations, they'll be furious about Russell Martin.
No kid. Well, I mean, we can go back to hockey for a half a second. What's up with Canada? Why do they suck, man? I have to ask all my Canadian friends about this. They're atrocious.
Well, it's a goaltending problem, man. Like, because okay, so the Four Nations, for anybody listening that doesn't understand what it is, instead of an All-Star game this year ahead of the Olympics next season, the NHL wants to make some money on these international tournaments where they don't get to make money in the Olympics. So they're like, okay, we'll do an international competition between NHL players, except we can't include Russia because of world reasons. So Four Nations then, U.S., Canada, Finland, Sweden, sort of an old play on the old Canada Cups that they used to have and things like that. And so Canada had its practices the other day, and they line up their first power play unit, and it is Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and Sam Reinhart. And you just say, like, how the hell do you stop that Death Star? Well, what you do is you score on their goaltending, which is Aiden Hill, Jordan Binnington, and I forget Sam Montembeault of Montreal. It's just not it's not the star-studded caliber that the rest of the lineup is. Not even the defensemen are still a pretty good defense core, but I almost think that maybe the American defense core is finally better than the Canadian defense core. The American forwards are creeping up. They're not the Death Star power play unit that Canada has, but they're the best American group of forwards they've ever had, and the goaltending for the U.S. is spectacular, whether it's Connor Hellebuck or Ottinger or whoever they want to put in net. So it's a situation where Canada's good in a short little 4-game exhibition thing they're doing here. Canada still might be able to be all right. They could probably still win the thing. But if there's something that's going to take them down, it's the goaltending, because it's just nowhere close to, whether it's the U.S. or Sweden or Finland for that matter. The Canadians have the worst goaltending out of these 4 teams, and that's the opportunity to, kind of pierce the armor a little bit. That's if they're not scoring 6 goals a game on you.
Yeah. So, again, follow Zach Cavanagh on Twitter at ZachCav, that's ZACHCAV. Thomas Murray, Thomas_L_Murray. That is just for your hockey content. We're done talking hockey. We're going to talk just one more thing about baseball. Jack, take us through the notes from this morning. It sounds like Zach Neto, Robert Stevenson, a few little injury notes we have a few going on.
Yeah, so talked to Zach Neto today. He said that he got good news from the doctors. He couldn't say what that good news was, but he got good news. But he said he's rehabbing his shoulder still, right shoulder surgery back in November. He just got cleared to start swinging last week, so starting Saturday. He's been hitting off a tee and progressing from there. Still waiting to get cleared to throw. So they said they don't know if he's going to be ready for opening day. They're not going to rush him. Personally, if he hasn't started throwing yet, I highly doubt he's going to be ready for opening day. So I mean, it's a smart play for them to not rush it. He's cornerstone for that franchise moving forward. Why rush to play an extra 3 weeks? So that's the update with Neto. As with Stevenson today, first time on the bump since his Tommy John surgery last year. He said throughout this whole process, it's been a lot smoother than he thought it was going to be. And he said his arm feels great and that he has to hold himself back because he feels like he can go harder, but the doctors are telling him, take it easy. So he's feeling good. Wasn't able to see his bullpen today because that was later in the day. So we'll ask him again how that went and how he's feeling. But those are your injury updates from the Angels.
Perfect. Thank you, Jack. And again, Jack is going to be in Tempe through the remainder of the spring. I believe not necessarily daily, but close to getting it in. I know you're there tomorrow and the next day as well.
Yeah.
So go ahead, follow him on Twitter or X or whatever the hell we call it now, at Jack Janes, JANES underscore at the end of that, just to fill it out. One last thought when it comes to the Angels here, guys. If Zach Neto is not ready for opening day, what do you want the middle infield to look like? Scrap Luis Rengifo. Let's just say that because he's going to be on the roster. You just don't know. He could play third. He could play. I mean, he's a body at short. He's a body at second. He's a body at third. He's a body in right field. But you can move him around defensively. Maybe not the prettiest of things, but he can do it, right? You get to choose between a middle infield pairing to start the year. What are you taking? And Thomas, we'll start with you.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing I think all Angel fans would want to see is, Christian Moore out there at second base to start the year, especially if everything goes right in spring and he continues to be as hot as he was at the end of last season, or at the end of his minor league season. And then at shortstop, I mean, the guy that I'm probably rooting for would be Tim Anderson. Just everything he's kind of overcame the last couple of years. I'd like to see a comeback story for him. It's really too early to say, though, who I would like to see be the starting shortstop, especially because, I'd like to see a little bit out of Kingery and Kevin Newman and see how that's all looking up to be.
And Zach, I'll run to you next.
Yeah, I sort of a similar thing. I think at shortstop you have to kind of be looking at Tim Anderson just because he has the pedigree. And then somebody's got to step up. I don't know who it necessarily is yet, but there's something needs to show up in that middle to hold on, because Zach Neto is that cornerstone, as you said, and it's just a matter of finding the spots that work and figuring it out. Like I don't have as good of a knowledge on it right this second as Jack does, because he's in camp, or I've been knee deep in expected goal numbers and things like that. So I can who I think Lucas Dostal will be a really good shortstop.
Yeah, who's the middle infield? Trevor Zegras and Lucas Dostal manning the middle infield for the Angels. I love it. So, Jack, who you got running that middle infield?
It's tough because you said don't include Rengifo, because I do think if Christian Moore has a good spring, I think it's going to be Rengifo at short and Christian Moore at second. When I talked to Ron Washington today, I asked him about what he's seen from Moore, and he said, in quote, he's proven to me he has aptitude. He's proven to me you can give him things and he can apply it. He's just a young kid that's hungry for a lot of wealth of knowledge. And then he went on to talk about his mindset and how, all he wants to do is just get out there and play. And Wash seems really excited to see what he can do out there this spring. So I think if he performs, I think Christian Moore is going to be your opening day second baseman. As for the shortstop, I mean, the safe pick is Rengifo, but I think Tim Anderson, if he has a decent spring, given his pedigree and the name behind him, I think he's going to be a good candidate for the opening day job.
Fair enough. My opinion. Thanks for asking, guys.
Taylor, what do you think, Taylor?
Oh, why, thank you, Zachary. So
you're running the show. You could ask yourself.
Hey, Taylor, what do you think? I talked to Christian a week ago. Talked to Christian about a week ago. Kid wants it, man. He wants it. And I don't deny that. I'm here to just piss off the world, man, because I'm looking at how many of you guys went to ASU? 2 of you? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to call for a full U of A middle infield, man. Kevin Newman sitting at second. Scott Kingery playing shortstop, son. You know it. The thing about Tim Anderson, if he is your opening day shortstop, I worry that he is there because he is a veteran that has done it, as opposed to someone that has earned it. And I hope that Tim Anderson does earn it. I've got no bones about that. I like Tim Anderson. But
do you think Ron Washington would lead that way? That he would just lean on a veteran at this point?
I think if he has a decent spring.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
Yeah,
well, that's what I'm asking.
Do.
Like,
Really
decent
do.
or otherwise, it doesn't seem like he's a guy you signed just to give a an eyelash to and then send him on his way. Like,
no, I think this is his. I think there's a pencil sitting there, and if it's not, I think Luis Rengifo. But I just don't think Luis Rengifo can. I honestly don't even know if he can play on the dirt. And that's how I feel about Christian Moore as well. Defensively, I'm not sure those guys can play the dirt. And I love Christian Moore, but he needs to be sitting in left field when it comes to my opinion on it. I think he's athletic. I think he's quick. I think he's athletic. I think he's really exciting. But I just don't know if he can play the dirt. And same as Luis. So, no, I'd go with, I think I agree with you guys. Christian Moore in second base, Tim Anderson sitting at shortstop. That'd be the way to go. One name we did forget, Carter Kieboom. Did you mention him, Jack, when you were talking about third base?
I did not.
All right. Well, let's just say Carter Kieboom and gun ho. So, boys, anything else? We've been chatting for almost an hour here. Anything that we missed over our debut podcast?
The only thing I have is what I thought was pretty interesting of what Perry said to the media was he gave 4 locks for the starting rotation, with the 5th spot being up for grabs. The 4 locks are, the first 3 aren't surprising. Jose Soriano, Yusei Kikuchi. Oh my, why am I drawing blank on the other guy?
Well, Tyler Anderson and Kyle Hendricks.
Tyler Anderson. But the surprise to me was Kyle Hendricks. This is a guy who had pretty much a 6 ERA last year. Didn't really have any spots of the year last year where he looked particularly good. So that'll be interesting to see play out. But as for the 5th, it looks like it's going to be up to Detmers, Kohanowitz, Silseth, Aldergary. There's probably
you throw Caden Dana in there.
Caden Dana. I think
Connor.
Those 4 guys. Yeah, those guys are going to be battling for that 5th start or 5th position this spring.
Yeah, I'd probably add Dakota Hudson into that mix to some degree. I guess we could close with that. Is who do you think is going to be the Angels' 5th starter? Just in February 12th at 3:30. Dear God, it's 3:30. 3:30 on the West Coast. What's your thought process, Jack? Who do you think is going to be the 5th starter?
I think this is partly because of a bias, because I really liked Reed Detmers as a draft pick and as a prospect. I hope he earns the job, because we saw what he could do back in 2022 when he had that kind of a breakout year. I'm hoping he finds some of that again. So I'll say him.
And Thomas?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say Detmers on that. And I think it's just more of wanting to see what he has this year. And then if they need to, it'll probably be Dana. If him or Hendricks doesn't end up handing out, somebody gets bumped out.
And Zach?
Yeah, we started off the podcast talking about the rooting for guys, in storylines and stuff like that. I think it has to be Reed Detmers in terms of that angle on it. And I think Caden Dana probably should get a good look too, just to know what you have, or if he's ready. If he's not, prove it, whether you're good or not, and go on. Because I think to tie it back to other things, in a similar way, like the Angels have to let the small amount of kids they have to see what they got and whether they're good enough to take this thing forward. And if not, then just do some reevaluating and try to piece things together.
Yeah, and I think there's a reversal of roles. Is Jack Kohanowitz performed at an incredible run limitation level, but he didn't miss bats, so he's not going to project very well. Personally, I think Jack, until he starts letting runs in, I think it's his to lose. Realistically, I know you can't bank anything on spring performance, but he limited runs and kept the Angels in games, and that's important. But yeah, no, I've said for years now, Thomas, you know about this, and Jack, you might too. I think the Angels pitching staff goes with the way that Reed Detmers goes. If Reed Detmers is not on, the Angels pitching staff is not on. So I think that Reed Detmers is the most important pitcher in the Angels farm system. Maybe that doesn't even include Caden Dana. So yeah, I think it has to be Reed moving forward here. I think that's it, guys. I think we're going to close it out. We're pushing an hour here. So, again, Zach Cavanagh, Ducks reporter for the Sporting Tribune. You can follow him on Twitter and X at Zach Cav, ZACHCAV. There's no K's. There's no K's. Gosh.
No K's in any of those. No.
Is that still? I found out that's not an insult anymore. When you text someone K, period. That's it. It's not an insult to any. It used to piss people off to no end, man.
I don't think I've ever actually done that.
It was very petty when I was in high school. It was like the girl you like is all being a jerk to you, so you just put K, period, done, over.
See, that's the difference. Girls talk to you in high school. That's
Hey, all right. Woohoo, yeah, all right. Well,
Is that girl now your wife, Taylor?
yeah, she doesn't talk to me, so I don't know. Zach Cavanagh on Twitter, ZACHCAV. Put an @ in front of it. Jack Janes at Jack Janes _ as JANES, and Thomas Murray at Thomas _L Murray. I did that all off the top of my head, guys. Didn't even look at what your handles were, so I'm doing well there. Again, guys, this is episode 1. This is a test run. We hope you enjoyed it. We're going to call it Wings on Katella, presented to you by The Sporting Tribune, www.thesportingtribune.com. Check us out. All of our work is there. Again, for The Sporting Tribune, I am Taylor Blake Ward. Have a wonderful day, everyone.